Jim, and it's Amadeus, and it's a Tuesday. And Amadeus, there's quite a bit of action this afternoon. Actually, when you start looking at the UEFA Champions League, the Copa del Libertadores. I mean, the Mexican league is getting back to play after the league's championship. So some soccer all over the place.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on today compared to yesterday. Obviously, there wasn't a lot. Just the one really Premier League game yesterday was the only. Well, I guess there was a few La Liga and stuff in Serie A, but the matchups weren't great. I was only on the Premier League match, and we cashed the under in the Arsenal Crystal Palace, so that was always good. And so now we move to 10-5 to start the Premier League season. And we're looking to roll that into the weekend. Still continued my 53-24 run from the end of last season in the Premier League.
Wow.
So definitely. Yeah, we ended off on a heater there.
Yeah. That is not a bad one. So it's most of the stuff is going to start. We have 3 games on the UEFA Champions League kicking off at 3:00. And then 6:00 is Copa Libertadores, Bolivar versus Internacional. The Mexican League gets underway tonight, late 9:00 games and 11:00 game. Brazil, that's their league. Serie B is tonight. Colombia is playing tonight. That league. There's not much that we're missing in the way of soccer content for Tuesday afternoon and in the evening.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. Obviously, in the Champions League, we got this match that's going to start. These matches that are going to start in about an hour. Got Antwerp and AEK Athens. Antwerp was very good in the Belgian league last year. They pretty much finished second after the league season, but I believe they won the championship round there to get this spot. But yeah, they've been really good at home. But then again, Athens is no pushover. They did go on the road in Croatia and beat Dynamo Zagreb in the last round. They ended up tying 2-2 at home, but they had already won on the road. So Athens is coming into this one playing very well. So that's going to be an interesting match. This Rakow Czestochowa match, Rakow has come out of nowhere. They've kicked out some pretty good teams so far in these qualifying rounds. Now they've had to play a lot because they started, back in like the first or second round of the qualifying, and they're going to be taking on a pretty good Copenhagen team. So it's that's another one that's going to be interesting. But Rakow at home here, that might be a team to watch just because every year there seems to be that new kind of team in Europe from these smaller leagues that, performed very well in their domestic league last year. And then they just burst onto the scene in Europe. And it looks like Rakow might be that team this year. They kind of just, came out of nowhere from last year, won their league title. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward for sure. And then obviously the last match is Rangers and PSV. I don't know if Rangers wants to be back in Champions League after setting the record last year for being the worst team to ever play in the group stage of Champions League. So that's better off just letting PSV advance there. But PSV is a much better team anyway, so let's see what happens.
We'll go from there. Now I know you've been all over the Copa Libertadores. Is that one of your picks for today, or is it something you want to chat about now?
Yeah, let's not talk about that one. I got my quarterfinal game of the year on this one, but it's definitely going to be an exciting match. That one's at 6:00, but we can talk about the Sudamericana one we have in the Copa Sudamericana. It's Corinthians and Estudiantes going today.
And that's an 8:30 start, by the way.
Yeah, and those are two very good teams. So Corinthians has been in very good form in Brazil and pretty much all competitions. But what worries me is they've been playing in a lot of competitions. So they've been playing their Brazilian league matches, but they've also had these Copa Sudamericana matches midweek, and they've had Copa do Brazil matches midweek as well that have been thrown in there in the off weeks that Sudamericana weren't there because they've actually gone pretty deep into this competition. So they've been a very good team at home, and they have a very good defense. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out tonight. I kind of like them at home here to get out to a lead before the second leg, just because Estudiantes is no pushover. They are a very good side in Argentina, and they've been playing in great form coming into this match. Not to mention the fact that they're well rested because their league is done. Now they're just doing the Copa de la Liga for Argentina. And they haven't really played too many matches in that. And if you look back in the Sudamericana, the group stage and things like that, it didn't matter how bad they were playing in the Argentina league, but they would always show up for these Sudamericana games, this Estudiantes team. So I definitely don't see them going down without a fight here. But that's actually part of the reason why I like Corinthians, because Estudiantes is going to be a very, very tough team for them to even though Corinthians is a Brazilian side, you always got to give, a little more weight to the Brazilian sides. Estudiantes is a big club in Argentina, so it's still going to be very tough for Corinthians to go play them on the road, and especially the way Estudiantes has been playing at home and in this tournament. I think it's very important that Corinthians get out to a lead here at home in the first leg, or they might be in serious trouble when they have to travel to Argentina for that second leg next week.
So it's never easy in situations like that.
And that's the thing, right? Like you want to get out to that lead because let's say you just win by one and then you go on the road and you lose by one. Okay, well, you're not eliminated, but now you got to do the penalties on the road in front of fans that aren't your fans. So that's why, the second leg home advantage really, really does matter. I do say the team that has the home team, the team that is the home team for the second leg is really the team that has the home advantage in the tie.
Yeah, I mean, it's get people off balance and boom, there you go. So it's going to be a wild ride, and give us a flavor, if you will, of the difference between what we're watching in South American soccer versus what we see over on the European side.
Yeah, so definitely with the reffing specifically, I've mentioned this before, they're very to the T in Brazil. There's things they call that wouldn't be fouls in Europe, and we've seen a lot of this in the game yesterday and just over the weekend in the Premier League. We've seen a lot more yellow cards for dissent. We've seen a lot more yellow cards for kicking the ball away. So the refs in Europe are definitely cracking down on those type of things this year, but they're also letting the contact go. They're more inclined to give a yellow card for a player diving. They're more inclined to give a simulation card than they are for the actual foul now. And it's definitely interesting because, I like it when they let them play. And I've heard complaints from the players and even the commentators in Brazil about how and they always make the joke that wouldn't be a foul unless it's the Brazilian league, and it's interesting because the Brazilian league itself is the only league that does that. The other South American leagues don't really ref that way. So even though these Brazilian clubs are so much stronger than every other country's clubs in South America, when they have to go play these continental matches in Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana, it can actually work against them sometimes because a lot of the Brazilian players like to go down easy, and the refs look at them like, "Hey, you got to get up, man. It's not a foul. Maybe it's a foul in the Brazilian league, but it's not a foul here. So they get up." And sometimes I've noticed it works against some of these teams. So I definitely think the reffing is definitely something to watch for. And even in Europe alone, like La Liga has different rules than Premier League. There's one specific rule with the goalkeeper pass. So in the Premier League, you can pass it back to your goalie as long as you don't use your foot. And if the ball deflects off of your own player and the goalie catches it, that's okay, right? Because you're not deliberately passing it back. in La Liga, that's different. The goalie can't really touch the ball with his hands after it's deflected off of a defensive player or his own player because they deem that as a handball. They deem that as a pass back. So it's very interesting how the rules do vary from league to league. And it plays a factor when they go to play in Champions League and Europa League and things like that because now you're calling refs from leagues all around the world that are all around Europe anyway that are reffing with slightly different rules, and that's why you see a lot of this stuff where it's like that's a foul in Champions League but not in the Premier League, and a lot of it goes with the inconsistencies of VAR. So this is a big thing, but yeah, definitely for that the reffing's different. Another thing with the style of play, the Brazilians, they take their shots, and it's a very wild match. Like normally. They're not afraid to shoot from outside the box. They're really fast when they get on the break. More so, I would say in South America, it's more of a dynamic match compared to Europe. Like what we see in the Premier League, it's a lot of teams, they really try to build from the back. Obviously, you're always going to get teams that play on the counter because they're not that strong and they're going up against a much stronger opponent. But yeah, more so in Brazil, you would see a lot more end-to-end type action and shots getting off like that, a ton of shots, versus in Europe and the Premier League, it's not as end-to-end because you have teams trying to play more possession of the ball and building from the back. So it's also a different style in that sense, just trying to build an attack and score goals.
It's funny that you bring that up on the officiating. I remember back in college basketball, it used to be the big joke was, in the Big East, it was no blood, no foul, right? And then when you went to the ACC, if you accidentally touch somebody, that'd be a foul. So
you got to breathe on them, Jin.
Yeah. And John Thompson once said, he goes, I hate it whenever we get ACC officials because, my guy Patrick Ewing's fouled out in the first 5 minutes of the game. So yeah, it does. If you're not used to it, then it's very difficult to adapt quickly to it. It takes time, but that's interesting. It's very, very interesting. Does anybody? Let me ask you this question: there used to be what they call, teams that played with the ball in the air, meaning the keeper would kick it and try to keep the ball. A lot of headers and those types of things. Is the concussion protocol or that sort of thing, has that gotten that type of play out of the league, or is it more with your feet now and less with your head?
I don't know if it's necessarily the concussion protocol. I definitely have seen less of that, so maybe that has a factor to do with it. But I think a lot of it is just teams are trying to control. They know how important it is to control the ball, and especially if you're a lesser team like that, and you're playing against a stronger team, you don't want to give away possession cheaply just when you get it right away. And headers and keeping the ball in the air like that can be very difficult to do that, and especially now that the league has become so competitive, because obviously for the last few years it's really just been the same. It's been like the same 4 teams for so long, for a decade almost. But it's always the Premier League's always had their powerhouse teams, and then you always get the odd one, like we had the year Leicester City won and things like that. But now, I could give you the first, what I think is going to be the top 10 teams in the Premier League, and they're all competitive, very competitive. So that's something that I think factors in, because I notice the teams will use the goalkeeper, but instead of playing that header style, they'll use the goalie to kind of, drop kick the ball to a winger into space and see if maybe we can, catch the defense while they're switched off briefly and get like a 2-on-1 break or something down the wing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me ask you another question about you just brought up the keepers. There's, I've noticed, at least in the games I've seen recently, that there's a lot more of like what they call the sweeper keeper, right? that plays a little bit further out and even ventures out of the box from time to time to get the ball into begin moving the ball up the up to the defenseman and midfielder or whatever. I mean, so they're kind of like playing a little bit of point guard, if you will, in their distribution, where they literally come out of the box and instigate or initiate the play.
Yeah, definitely. Especially a lot of these younger keepers too. Definitely seeing a lot of the sweeper keeper these days. Andre Onana is big added. He's really good too. I think Andre Onana is slowly becoming one of the best goalkeepers in the world, just from what I've seen over the last year or so. And there was that match, obviously, for Man United, where he basically, he saved the day against the Wolves. There were so many saves he made. So, Onana's one. Obviously, we saw Ramsdale do it yesterday for Arsenal. So, 100%, the sweeper keeper is a big thing, and I think it's more so it's a good safety net for these defense, right? Because there's a lot of speed now with these young forwards. And it's easy for these bigger defensemen to get beat by the speed. So if you have your keeper playing a little more out, then they just have to tap the ball back, and the keeper's more likely to run on the ball than the 6'4" slow defender trying to beat out the striker or the winger on the other team who is just too fast.
Too quick.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So all right. Moving on to baseball today, and I'm going to give you the lineup here for what's gone. Now, these first three. By the way, let me start with this though before we get to that. I don't know if you saw the replay of it, but Bryce Harper hit an into park home run last night, and it was one of the wildest inside the park home runs I've ever seen. There is a if you next time, folks, when you're watching baseball, if you're watching the bank is what they call it, which is of course the place where the Philadelphia Phillies play, and it's Citizens Bank Park is the technical name of the stadium. Out just center field has two there's the wall drops back about 3 feet or 4 feet from the stands that will come, stands coming from the left field side, stands coming from the right field side. So there's like a little bit of an indentation where, the stands jet out, as I say, 3 to 4 feet or so from the actual fence. So what Bryce did last night is he literally hit a ball into left field, and it hit on the inside the wall, inside the park, and it bounced in a totally different direction, like ricocheted off of it, went over the center fielder's head and went on toward right field. So Harper's running like a maniac, which he always does, and I think he realized that the ball wasn't out because he sprinted out of the out of the batter's box. So he scored standing up in an into park home run, and by the time he had hit third base, that was about the time the right fielder was getting to the ball. So it was a really one of those, you couldn't have placed it any better in that regard. So when you're having a good time when something like that is, life, karma is with you.
I'll definitely have to check that. I'll definitely have to check that
one out. That was pretty wild. And
you know what though? Usually the batter and the pitcher are the two people who know right away if that ball's out of the park or not.
Right. Yeah.
Because you always know that, because the batter will just like slowly watch it and they're like, oh yeah, that one's gone, and then the pitchers always right away they know when they, by the sound or whatever it is, as soon as the guy hits it, they always like drop their head, or they're like,
I was gonna say, because they don't even look, they don't want to look, It's like,
Yeah,
no,
they don't need to look. They're just hoping maybe somebody
right,
catches it at the wall, but they know that
right.
one's gone.
They,
They know
they
when they
can
serve
feel
up
it.
the
They're
big
going,
ball.
oh God, here we go. So, one other quick note, and that was the 24-game preseason winning streak. The Baltimore Ravens came to an end last night as the
By 1 point.
Washington football team, the Commanders, kicked a field goal with 10 seconds left in the game
The Washington to be announced.
to be announced. Yes, under new ownership. Washington under new ownership basically wins the game 29-28. So there you go. If you another toughie for 24 games. Sorry, the streak has ended. Much like Cal Ripken's streak, sometimes it just has to come to an end.
Let's just hope that Ron Rivera knows the playoff situation this year.
Yeah, let's well, he's 2-0 right now, so I don't think they're it's really weird. Washington ended up with a preseason of, get this, they started the preseason. They played the Steelers, the Ravens, and now they'll finish their preseason against the Bengals.
Oh, so they get the good old
The
AFC
whole,
North.
yeah, they got the whole AFC North. It's like, how did that happen? That normally, because the teams themselves set the schedules for preseason. It's not, and then they send it in to the league, and it's an agreed upon group. And usually it's kind of like, it's not like you would, let's say if you're the Jets, you wouldn't fly out to Los Angeles to to play a preseason game against the Rams or the Chargers. I mean, usually you stay within a region, and I guess this time it was the furthest team away, Cincinnati. So that really doesn't mean they could probably drive over and watch the game. So who knows?
Yeah, that's definitely it, Jim. They just decided, we're not traveling.
Yep.
Baltimore, really, that's in the same state as the stadium. Technically.
Well, yeah, it's 40 miles. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's 40 miles to Landover, and so from Landover to downtown Baltimore is 40 miles, and so they busted over and they'll bust it back. So
yeah, that is. I was gonna say that's less of a drive.
You're not getting,
you going to Toronto. That's like halfway there.
Right. It's definitely not. You don't need to fly into fly charter to 40 miles, but yeah, it's probably took them longer traffic wise to get in and out of the stadium to play the game. So pretty wild. Anyway, all right. Here's our baseball for today. The next, I'm going to give you 3 in a row that are 6:40 starts. Cubs, Tigers, Drew Smiley on the hill for your Chicago Cubs. Detroit has Olsen. Let's see, Rockies, Rays, Ballack is pitching for Colorado, and Lytle for your hometown Rays. Phillies, Giants at the bank tonight. It's Harrison for San Francisco. It's Walker for Philadelphia. 7 o'clock start.
Is actually making his MLB debut today.
Yeah, I just looked at that. I just realized he's got a 0-0 and a nothing ERA. So he is making his debut tonight, and against that Philadelphia Philly lineup, that should be, definitely test under fire.
Fun start for him for sure.
Yeah. The Cardinals and the Pirates, 2 teams not going anywhere. And by the way, at this point in time in the season, ironically, the Pirates have a better record than the Cardinals. So
yeah, the Cardinals are dead last in the division.
Yep. And
it's because I took them to win the World Series, Jim.
Well, everybody has a bad day. St. Louis pitching Wainwright. What is he? 7 years old, I think, at this point. Pittsburgh, Olivado is pitching for Pittsburgh. 7:05 start. The Jays and the Orioles. That's a big series for the Jays. I think if they can get some footing there, if they can take 2 out of 3 in that series, that would bode well for them. Carucci is. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that's an interesting one because the Blue Jays were a slight favorite yesterday. They opened as a slight favorite,
Mhm.
and now it's moved to where Baltimore is the slight favorite.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because Rodriguez obviously he's a rookie and he
Sure.
hasn't he hasn't been great. He's been good lately, but at the start of the season he really struggled. And Kikuchi has been just completely like lights out all season,
Mhm.
just as I predicted at the beginning of the year when he changed every single mechanic and pitch he
Right.
had. But basically is a brand new pitcher at this point because you
There you go.
can't take any stats from him in previous years because it's literally he's throwing completely different stuff now. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting one for sure. I stayed off of it, but I'm curious to see
Yeah.
what happens there.
Rodriguez at home has been pretty good. On the road, not so much. But he's 3-3 with a 5.44 ERA, and your boy Kikuchi is 9-4, which is very impressive, with a very serviceable 3.44 ERA. So that's if the Jays are going to make a move, you gotta start somewhere, and that's where they're starting. My page moved on me here for a second. Let me get back to there. We go. All right, the Nationals are in the Bronx to play the Yankees. Josiah Gray is on the hill for Washington, and Rondon is pitching for the Yankees. Dodgers Guardians. Okay, you ready, guys? That's right.
Ready.
Mr. Miller, our boy, Mr. Miller, our favorite pitcher, is pitching for the Dodgers. He's 7-2 with a 3.70 ERA. Noah Syndergaard for Cleveland. He is 2-6 with a less impressive 6.57 ERA.
Very familiar face for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Didn't they just get rid of him like 3 weeks ago?
It wouldn't surprise me that he's wearing a Dodger cap when he goes out there to pitch for Cleveland.
You know what? His profile picture still has it on Baseball Reference. He still
really
has
does it?
The Dodgers cap. So
all right. The Mets and the Braves. Mets got McGill on the hill for them and Elder for Atlanta. Now we go to the 8 o'clock starts. Red Sox at the Astros. Houck is pitching for Boston. Verlander for Houston. 8:10, the Mariners and the White Sox in Chicago. It's Wu pitching for Seattle. It's Clevenger pitching for. I was surprised actually Clevenger didn't get traded.
You know what? He's been pitching very well actually.
Yeah, they could have got
how
something.
bad the White Sox have been.
Yeah. Well,
I just wanted to say also going back to the Red Sox game, how
sure.
is returning from a face injury.
Oh yeah,
that has kept him out for like months. Actually, I think about it.
Yeah.
Now.
Been a while.
So that again, it'll be interesting to see how he comes out because it's not like he's got an injury that affects his throwing or anything. It was a face injury, right? But obviously, let's hope he doesn't get hit in the face.
Oof, yeah, man, that's amazing. All right, well, we'll hope that he's okay. All right, so the Twins and the Brewers, that game is over for Minnesota, and it is Miley pitching for their lefty there, lefty pitching for the Brewers. We got the Reds at the Angels. That is a 9:38 start. Ashcraft is pitching for Cincinnati, and the man, the legend, Lucas Giolito is pitching for the Angels.
Rise guy.
What's that?
Rise guy.
That's right, Rise guy. 9:40, Kansas City and Athletics playing that friends and family game. Kansas City's got Zupa pitching. He's a left-handed pitcher. 1-1 with a 6.08 ERA. And Oakland, I don't have a pitcher for Oakland at this point.
Not only do I not have a pitcher, I don't even have a line on that game.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, it's Kansas City, Oakland. Who knows what might happen?
It's OTB. You can't even bet on the game right now at my sportsbook.
In many ways, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, who wants to bet on those teams, right?
Those two teams could not. Oh, God.
If there was a bowl game called the Trash Bowl, you would have those two teams play in it.
All right.
It doesn't matter that they don't play football. You don't get them some football equipment and let them play the Trash Bowl.
This is a Kansas City team that's 40-87. Okay. Against an Athletics
team to hit 90 losses? ?
Well, Kansas City's got 90 losses. I mean, Oakland's got 90 losses.
Oh, there you go.
They're 35-90. So How would you like to go into a game where your record is 40-87 and you're not the worst team in the game?
Gotta have some confidence.
I really have a feeling that that's probably why there's a line. It's like, no. We don't want it. We not only do we not want to watch it, we don't want to touch it.
Two 90 loss teams, basically.
Oh man, that's.
We still have like a whole month left of the regular season.
Oh yeah, they could. I mean, Oakland only has to lose 10 more games to get to 100,
Wow.
and 13 for the Royals. So there you go. They can do that. I don't know if they want to, but they might. All right, changing on to some teams who are actually decent. The Rangers are at the D-backs, and the D-backs have been fading fast, but hopefully they can get back on the the winning track. The Rangers have Gray pitching for them tonight. Gallion is pitching for Arizona, and the Marlins and the Padres in a game out in San Diego, and Luzardo is pitching for Miami. San Diego has got Blake Snell, who just keeps rolling along. His 2.65 ERA, he's 10-8. Hopefully, after such a terrible weekend out in Southern California, where they've had floods, they've had all kinds of terrible situations with that rain, that the games in the game that's in San Diego, and I think the game in Anaheim, I would just keep an eye on that just to make sure weather-wise that because of what happened, that those games may or may not get postponed. But not because it's raining there, it's not raining any longer, but clean up in Anaheim and clean up in San Diego might affect starting times or even whether or not the game is played yet. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in those two games. So that's our baseball scoreboard for today. And right now we didn't have any scores, so that part was easy. So, all right, let's see what we got here. So let's chat about what are some of the things we could be looking forward to for you tonight from your from your picks, which we have in our show box below.
Yes, you can get my plays at bigal.com and pickadvisor.com. As Jim said, the link is in the description below. And tonight, like I said, I got my quarterfinal game of the year in the Copa Libertadores that you can go grab. That one's at 6 o'clock. And I have one baseball play if you're looking for some MLB action. So,
can you tell us what's the game? You don't have to tell us who's going to win. Just what's the game?
Yeah. So the game is the Minnesota Twins and the Milwaukee Brewers.
So you stayed off of Kansas City and the Athletics?
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't want to, but
it was hard. It was hard not to.
It was a tough one to stay off for sure.
You know, the irony is that the Athletics actually moved from Kansas City to Oakland, and then they awarded the Kansas City Royals as a franchise, as a expansion franchise. So
and now they're both awful.
There's history for the for them in Kansas City. I don't think any of them were alive whenever that happened, but it's been a while. But they started in Philadelphia, went to Kansas City, and ended up in Oakland. So, and right now it doesn't look like they're going to end up in Vegas either. So they may be
really. What's going on with the Las Vegas?
Well, there was a last minute push to keep them in Oakland and do something with the stadium there, the Coliseum land, and evidently there's definitely a possibility, a very strong possibility that the deal in Vegas seemingly is kind of, I'm not going to say it's fallen through, but it certainly has changed dramatically. So, what's a mother to do? We'll have to find out what's going on.
That's what happens when every stadium your ball team goes to has the opponent's fans chiming in to sell the team.
Right. Makes it a very interesting trip. There's no question.
All right. They may be playing against each other, but for some reason, the A's fans and the home team's fans can all seem to get behind sell the team.
Right. It's it's a chant that goes with them. So they
And
travel
it just
well.
goes to show you how it's pissed off the entire baseball community.
Well, I mean, it's you can't. You're paying good money to go watch a baseball game or any sport. Okay, you do not want to spend that money watching a subpar product. And if you are tonight in Oakland and Kansas City's in town, how many people are you going to draw? I mean, you lost 90 games, they lost 87. Okay. And, let's take it another level. It's, even at this time of the year in Oakland, it's kind of chilly. Okay. You've got that massive ballpark that seats 50, 70, close to 60, 70,000. It just, even if the crowd is 12 or 15 or 20,000, it looks like nobody showed up. So it's hard to play in front of that kind of situation. It's even harder to understand that, okay, it's only, they're not building anything that's going to be any better at this point. So we'll hope that happens. But no, I don't. I feel bad for Billy Beane and some of those guys out there in Oakland now that what's going on out there, because it's just not right, not fair to the fans, not fair to the players. So anyway, it is what it is for right now, and I still don't see how the Vegas team, which is the Vegas A's, the Aviators, how they play in that ballpark, when it's 100 and some degrees at first pitch. So interesting, but what's a mother to do anyway? All right. So any final thoughts before we get out of here on a Tuesday afternoon?
No, just go make some money tonight.
There you go. Cash some checks. There you go, boys and girls. All right. Look, for Amadeus, I'm Jim. Everybody have a lovely day. We'll see you tomorrow.